Thank you for listening to the BJJBrick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to help you get the most out of your grappling ability and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to the BjjBrick Podcast. This is episode 361. We're going to be improving your jiu-jitsu with science today. My name is Byron. I'm always encouraging you to get sweaty every day. We've got Gary here. He's like an old gym teacher, reminding you of that hygiene. Gary, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. You know, I got my old yellow coach's shorts on and a tank top with a whistle around my neck, just like an old gym teacher.
Nice. I love it. Joe here, he doesn't just remind us to train hard, but also to train smart. Joe, how are things going, my man?
Things are going good. Glad to be here with you. Looking forward to getting smarter today with all this information that you've brought to the show.
Yep, I've been out perusing the interwebs, and we've got a bunch of articles. I'll put links to them in the show notes. But I want to start things off with a quote. This is from Thomas Carlyle. Go as far as you can see. When you get there, you'll be able to see further. I like the quote, guys. And you could just think of it like physically on a hike. You know, hey, we're going to go hike, 10 miles or whatever, but that seems so far. You know what? I can see the top of that hill, the top of that mountain. That's where the trail leads. Go to there. And then once you get to that point, go to the next part. Just take it step by step. And I think that for jiu-jitsu, people will, you'll be that blue belt. Oh, black belt is so far away. Don't even worry about that. Worry about getting better. Don't even worry about getting better. Just things will happen. You'll get better. But focus on getting better, I guess is a better way to say that, and work on your next goal. So when you have a long journey, just travel as far as you can see. Travel that distance that's attainable or that seems in reach. And once you get to that point, you can look a little further. You can go a little further.
I'm just thinking about just taking it one class at a time, 1 week at a time. Just keep moving towards the destination you can see. I like it, Byron.
Yeah, I think it goes with just truncating large goals into smaller ones that are manageable. That really helps us out here.
Guys, when I'm out riding my mountain bike, and for me, riding my mountain bike is a lot of suffering. It's very painful.
Well,
put the seat.
Gary, try putting the seat on it, man.
Well, it's painful for two reasons. For that, and the lactic acid buildup, and so kind of what I do when it gets really, really bad is, I know I don't have that much farther to go. I just look ahead, and I find a tree. And I say, I'm going to ride to that tree. And I'll look ahead and I'll find a shadow and say, I'm going to ride to that shadow. And I just keep breaking it down that way, and allows me to keep pushing it. But, I guess maybe because I get to that shadow or I get to that tree, it's kind of like I hit a goal. So maybe it makes it a little bit easier. But for me, it makes the suffering a little bit easier when I'm riding.
Yeah. And when Gary doesn't come home because he is passed out, look underneath the tree.
Byron, Superman does not pass out.
That's true. But you seem to pass out all the time. Clark.
But Superman doesn't.
Well, I'm glad he'll be able to come save you. Joe has a off-the-mat lesson for us. Joe, what do we have this week? Or this month, I guess.
Either of you guys had much experience with orchestra, either as a performer or as a consumer of it?
Not myself, but Byron, didn't you used to play the rusty trombone?
I have no musical ability whatsoever. I've been to a few orchestras as a spectator.
Okay, so you've been to a few, so you're familiar with the whole performance. And for anybody that hasn't, if you go to an orchestra performance, when you walk in and you're trying to find your seat, you'll hear the orchestra warming up. And I've played some music. My family was big into music when I was growing up, and I actually do play the trombone and the trumpet a little bit. and each member of the orchestra will be playing something different. Guy sitting there in the trumpet section might just be running through some scales, and the guy next to him might be just practicing a certain piece of music that's difficult for him. He wants to make sure he gets it right, and the guy next to him might just be working on hitting high notes. And so when you're in the audience and you're trying to find your seat and you're listening to this, it's just a din of noise, and it couldn't really be described as music. But then when people have found their seats, the conductor gets up and he taps on the music stand in front of him, and it's silent, and then he does his count, and then the music starts, and it's beautiful music, completely not at all like just the noise you were hearing before. And the reason that is because now instead of having 100 musicians all playing something different, you've got 100 musicians playing the same song, the same key signature, the same time signature. They all started in the first measure. One guy didn't start in the second, and one guy didn't start on the third page. And so that's what makes it a beautiful music. That and the fact that you've got all of the right instruments. You don't go to an orchestra performance and see 100 trombones or 50 trombones and 50 violins. You've got your violins, and you've got your cellos, and you've got your woodwinds and your brass, and you've got all the right pieces, all the right musicians playing the same song at the same time together. And I kind of think that jiu-jitsu is the same way. If all you do is, say, work on your top game, and only a few types of moves from there, that's like having an orchestra with 3 different types of instruments, And if you are big into kimuras from the closed guard, but you don't try and hit kimuras from any other positions, then that's like it's not playing together. There's no harmony to your music. So I think as you're assembling your techniques and assessing your game, kind of look at it as an orchestra. Do you have all the right pieces? Do you have enough different pieces? And are they all working together? Does that make sense, Byron?
I love that. And I can actually imagine the sound of that, like everybody just making that kind of racket, and the conductor gets up there and he taps his guy. I don't know what the device is called that they hold it on the not the podium, his stand. I don't even know any of this stuff. And it just
is it a
quiet.
Byron, would that be a baser?
Like a turkey baster. Man, these jokes, even after a month, Gary, the bike seat thing's still standing. The turkey baster is up. Turkey timer. Anyway, I haven't been to a lot of orchestras or symphonies, but you were describing that so well, Joe. I was able to just picture it in my mind, just that racket, and everyone's doing their own warm up. Everyone's kind of getting tuned up with what they need to do, and then the cue, I think it's the 3 little taps that they do, and that probably has some sort of a mental effect. It's like, okay, it's game time, getting ready. Like when Coach, like Gary, blows that whistle or starts that timer, game time. And everybody just kind of snaps together, and they follow the direction, and it is music after that. That's a great example, Joe. I like that.
Thanks.
So you're quite musical. That's something that I'm always thinking about, what skill do I add? What thing am I missing? As far as I have no music ability. So that would be one I could quickly gain a small amount of music ability, and it would be vastly more than I have now. And maybe I would, if I did that, if I picked up an instrument, Joe, and I learned a little bit about music, would I appreciate music more, you think? Or is that, because I like music, I like to work out to music, would I gain a deeper understanding of that and a deeper joy, you think?
That's a good question. Having been involved in music my whole life, I guess I'm not sure, but I believe so.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like if you think of MMA and you have no background in striking or no background in grappling, and you watch it, you can still enjoy it. I still enjoy music, but if you understand how close that triangle is because you've been in, a bunch of triangles, I think you could enjoy it or really appreciate a good escape from the triangle or a really beautiful setup or whatever it is. I think that usually a deeper understanding in something increases joy.
Yeah, but Byron, then you can't go to the bar and watch MMA and always yell, "Stand him back up." if you had that deeper understanding. So you wouldn't fit in with everybody.
That's true. Especially at our bars down here. That's how it goes. That's the bar crowd around here. I don't know. I haven't been to a bar in a long time to watch a UFC. I guess haven't watched many UFCs lately. Anyway, guys, we've got. First, I want to give a shout out to our audiobooks. We have 6 games for BJJ, and then. So that is really designed at people who are maybe blue belt and above and looking to alter the way they train to improve their skill development and find little nuances in their games. And then we also have an audiobook, Your First Year of BJJ. And both of these can be found in the BjjBrick shop alongside of the selling of Gary's bricks in his house.
I saw somebody was looking for him the other day.
Yeah, I know. We've had a little bit of interest in that. Turns out he's kind of raised the prices up to where he could afford to repair the damage. But yeah, first year of BJJ will really help you out if you're new to jiu-jitsu and wanting to get that first year up and going, not just successfully, but also I want you to enjoy it and not kind of piddle around in parts of the jiu-jitsu game that may not be useful or advantageous for your first year. And that'll be in the shop. It's $11.99, and the other audiobook, the 6 games for BJJ, I think it's $5.99 or $6.99. Anyway, they're both in the shop. Check them out if you're interested, or order a brick from Gary. Guys, science can improve our jiu-jitsu. And that's what we're looking at today.
I'm a little disappointed, though, Byron, because I want to say when you floated this idea by us the first time, you came at us with something like proven scientific methods to improve your jiu-jitsu, and I thought you were coming to us with a secret that was going to unleash my progress, but
that's what these are. Okay, so that's what we should call the show.
Before we start, we can go back to, when you sent that email out, I think Joe hit the nail, right on the head there with show up to class, show up to practice. I personally think that is probably the most scientific way to get better. I see a lot of people wondering why they don't get better, and you talk to them and you find out they haven't been there in 3 weeks. If you come every 3 weeks, it's going to be hard to get better. So point number 1 is just show up.
That's a big one. All of these are going to kind of fall apart if you're not actually training. I've got, and I don't know, maybe we'll get all these, maybe we won't. But I've got a bunch of articles that we'll put on the show notes that are going to reference this information. You could dive a little deeper in if you want to. I figured why not start out with warming up. And this is on scienceforsport.com. And they recommend the ramp method for warm-up. And I'd never heard of this. And this is, I like things that help you remember. Ramp is a good thing like that. And it's R, raise, and then activate, mobilize, and potentiate. Or, look for ways to increase your potential. So that's the warm-up procedures we're going to be talking about here. And he mentions in the article that, if you warm up for 15 minutes and you train 4 times a week, over, a week, that's an hour. Or over 12 weeks, that's 12 hours of time. And if you warm up in a way that actually helps you, improve your skill and get better, that's well-used time. If your jiu-jitsu warm-up is 100% just jogging around the mats, or maybe you put your shoes on and jog around the block and you come back and you train jiu-jitsu, that's not necessarily going to help you a lot with jiu-jitsu, but it does get you warmed up. And maybe if you're also doing running stuff, that's a great combination. But just to effectively use this time, which is going to be 4 times a week, 15 minutes, an hour a week of training, so you could really add an hour of effective training, which is kind of cool. So the raise in ramp. Increase body temperature, increase heart rate, increase respiration rate, blood flow increase, and get the blood flow to your joints increased as well. So that's the raise in ramp, and he's advocating not doing the jog around the field here, but actually doing things that are more specific. And several times in this article he references rugby, and it's not a really rugby website, but it's the specific sport.
So we're gonna play rugby to warm up.
Yeah, you could. It probably would be. I mean, I don't know. You'd probably be. People would like it. Yeah, it would probably be entertaining. But these type of warm-ups are...
Byron,
yeah.
What do warm-ups look like when you're teaching class? What kind of exercises and movements do you like?
Man, so typically, I haven't really, quote, designed a warm-up. I think our warm-ups here have just evolved over the time, and they look a decent amount like they always have 20 years ago. But start off kind of jogging, and then we'll mix in different types of jogs where, high knees and, you're kind of jogging sideways just around the mat. And then we'll do some stretches, and then we'll do some, different core exercises and that sort of thing. And by that time you're sweaty and you've done a lot of the R as far as raising respirations and blood flow and that sort of thing. So I think that's on par with those. And the R here is, he's recommending that it's a low intensity thing. It's not real crazy. So I think this is just for, a few minutes, kind of getting that blood flow going, start to sweat maybe. Does that answer your question, Joe? I'm sure warm-ups could be tweaked and improved.
It kind of does. I just think, because he was talking about not just going for a run, but doing like activity specific. My favorite type of warm up for jiu-jitsu is when you go back and forth up and down the mat doing jiu-jitsu things, forward rolls, backward rolls, single leg shots, shrimping and those kind of things. I've never been a big fan of just doing squats and jumping jacks and push-ups, and I know there's a lot of value to that, but that's also something that's really easy to do on your own, and I don't know if it prepares you as well for class as doing the shrimping and the bridging and those kind of things. That's just my 2 cents on that one.
I like that, Joe, and I didn't even mention, go down the mat, come back, go down the mat, come back and do these things, and I think that's pretty much a staple in most jiu-jitsu classes.
I hope so, yeah. But I've been to some where it seems like the warm-up is actually a 20-minute strength and conditioning session.
Yeah.
A lot of jumping jacks, a lot of push-ups, a lot of squats and those kind of things. And like I said, there's value to them, but I don't know if they prepare you for class as well as doing the traditional shrimping and bridging and rolling.
So the next phase in ramp, activate and mobilize. He's combined these two, and he wants you to activate key muscle groups and mobilize your joints in range of motion. So this, I think, is kind of more what you were talking about, Joe, as far as going down the mats, and you're going to be working on key things. Like if you're going to be doing takedowns today, like that's what we're going to be working on is takedowns. Maybe we do level changes up and down the mats, so you stand there, you get a good athletic stance, and then you change levels, or you take a shot, or, like those that are a little bit more specific to what you're going to be working on today or in general. And that, I think, is a good example of, run or jog or do some stuff just to kind of breathing heavy, and then activate and mobilize key areas. Does that make sense? I think he's advocating we're going to do the R part of the ramp today. No, I think this whole thing burns through in 15 minutes, and you're ready to go. And then P, and he uses the potentiate. Another thing, it would be prime, and you just want to get the athletes increasing their ability in certain areas, and just kind of get them primed to train. And I think maybe a good way for this would be to do a little bit more of a light rolling or some flow rolling, which, everybody defines flow rolling as different things, but it doesn't need to be like I 100% let Joe do this and let Joe do that, and then I do this move to Joe, and he lets me. But like more just like some light rolling where we are rolling, but we're also working with each other to make sure we both get a good warm up during this. It's not, hey, Joe has me in, he's passing my half guard the entire 2 minutes we're doing this little flow roll. That's not flowing at all. But Joe could do his half guard pass, slice through to side control, and then he lets me escape, and maybe I hit a sweep, and then he gets to, like, it doesn't mean that we're just letting them do it, but we're letting them do that if they do it properly, and we're giving them a proper resistance to make it not easy, but attainable. That's kind of what I'm thinking for this, and that may not be how you define flow rolling, but just kind of a warm up roll would be a way to kind of get us primed and ready to get ready to start our jiu-jitsu lesson. So that is kind of the warm up stuff there, and I think we could all evaluate and really a lot of that's up to your coach. How does your coach want to run the class? And some coaches, like Joe was describing, they run a boot camp. You're in there, you're doing 50 crunches like this, 50 crunches like that, and jumping jacks and whatever, and that's perfectly fine if that's what the class needs. That's what the class needs. But I think it wouldn't hurt any coach to kind of reevaluate and are the students getting the most out of the time that they have for warm ups, because you don't want to squander the time in jiu-jitsu because it is limited. We, like Joe said, a lot of the stuff we can do alone.
And everybody's different. Joe and I, we're probably going to warm up differently than a 22-year-old who's a college athlete. That's the one thing I've noticed as I've got older is, warm-ups are very important. And the reason warm-ups are important is if I'm hurt, I'm not on the mat. And kind of, Joe with his knowledge, his vast wisdom, he's telling me the only way to get better, the best way to get better is to show up. And if I'm out, if I'm injured due to not properly warming up, I'm not going to be on the mat. But, going back to, what you're talking about, everybody's different. I remember, this isn't probably the way to do it, but I remember, kind of getting in an argument with a coach because I wasn't doing the warm-ups. I was doing my own warm-ups on the side. And, due to an injury I had, the warm-up we were doing wasn't going to help me. And he wanted me to do it, and I said no, and kind of turned into a little argument. And but probably not the best way to go, but only myself knows what's best for me.
Yeah, it's never ideal to be having a argument with your coach. But looking back, Gary, if you just would have mentioned to the coach at the beginning of the class, hey, my ankle or my knee is a little banged up, I'm not going to be able to do this particular warm-up, or I'm going to do the best I can, but, I'm here. Do you think you would have got less resistance from that coach, or wouldn't have been about the same?
Yeah, it probably would have been better. Good point right there.
But for Gary's perspective, hey, coach, if Gary comes to class every day and gives his 100%, and today while you do the forward rolls, he's standing on the side watching. That's not typical. Okay, give him credit.
I wasn't standing on the side. I wasn't standing on the side watching. I was doing something else on the side that didn't tax what was being used in that part of the warm up.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, so that's
that's
good.
What I say. It's like I think each person knows what's best for them. We're all going to come in. I mean, how many times have you rolled with your back a little jacked up or something? And you're like, yeah, you're just like, hey, I better not be doing anything inverted. So, I know Joe was talking about how he likes forward and backward rolls, but I'm probably going to stick away from those on this day.
Yeah. Oh, I know people who just get they don't like the forward and backward rolls because it makes them so dizzy they're almost sick.
Actually, that's me. I don't like them because I get dizzy. The forward rolls make me dizzy. Backward rolls, I'm okay.
I'm the opposite, Gary. I can do forward rolls all day long, but yeah, if I do 3 backwards rolls in a row, I'm walking like a drunken sailor back to the other end of the mat.
You know what that's like.
I've been called one before.
Yeah. Byron wouldn't know what that's like because he said earlier he's never been to a bar.
So, I mean, just kind of know what your body is. And I think with Gary's situation, communicating with your coach is helpful because you don't want to, the communications being an argument is not where you want to have it end up with.
Yeah, I messed up. I didn't think about that. I probably should have, told the coach first, hey, I got a little minor injury and I'm going to be working around it. So I may do stuff a little different.
But same
that
thing.
would have been the way to do it.
Same thing for the coach, be professional and say, hey, Gary, you all right, man? You're usually in here doing this. And Gary says, no, my knee is messed up. All right, Gary, do what you can. That's also pretty easy. Yeah,
but really it's up to me. I probably handled it the wrong way, and how I am sometimes, but I probably should have, said first. And, if you do that 99% of the time, everything will be okay.
And that's what we're going for, 99.9% of the time.
Yep, that could be our life lesson.
We'll do that one next month or next week or whenever we record again. So right now we're doing our end of the month show that we have really enjoyed doing, and we've gotten some questions about the show and how it's going, and it's no longer really a weekly show, although we bring it weekly. But we're doing. I think we're just at a pace that is more easier to manage, and I'm trying to do some other stuff with the show long term. But so just kind of making some adjustments here. We're still here with you guys, and we're glad you're here with us. So to move on with kind of some science and training, nutritional information. Gary, what are you doing before, during, or after your workouts, and I'll kind of match that to what the article says, and we can see how you do.
What am I doing before my workouts?
Yeah, are you eating stuff? Are you eating a lunch to train in the evening time? Or are you eating breakfast to train at noon? Or are you drinking water or Gatorade during your workouts? What are you doing, man?
Oh, I definitely try to drink water while I'm working out, but that's probably an area where I'm not very scientific. I eat when I eat. I don't really plan my eating if I'm working out or whatever, but the hydration part I always, especially if I know I'm training, I make sure I hydrate well. But that is an area I probably lack in. Yeah,
and so this article is from Jiu-Jitsu Brotherhood. That'd be Nick Gregoriadis, and we've had him on the show. But like I said, I'll put a link in this because we're skipping a lot of stuff. We're kind of hitting some highlights. Anyway, he says that the pre-training meal or eating pre-training is probably the most important aspect of getting results on the mat. And he recommends having a balanced meal or a large snack 4 to 6 hours before training. So we're talking about complex carbohydrates. So complex starchy carbohydrates. Think of, I don't remember, I saw a t-shirt and it said complex and simple carbohydrates. And the complex carbohydrates were like an apple and some other fruits, and they had like vegetables, and they were reading books. They're very complex and very smart. And then the simple carbohydrates were like just junk food and candy bars and whatever, and they were just doing playing video games or whatever. So complex carbohydrates, think of them as being your fruits and vegetables and that sort of thing. So he recommends a meal with complex carbohydrates and some protein and a little bit of fat. So 4 to 6 hours before, and then he says a higher carbohydrate snack 30 to 60 minutes before exercise also helps with your energy levels. And that could be like a piece of toast or banana. And that's for energy. And then he also recommends protein before, so even a tablespoon of peanut butter. So if you're eating that banana peanut butter goes pretty well together. That could be a good snack 30 minutes to an hour before you're actually training. Gary, I'd be interested to see if that... Gary, you train a long time on the mats, and I think that you're not just getting in the 30 minutes of rolling. You're getting past that mark pretty easily into an hour plus. I do think a pre-workout meal or snack, you're going to see maybe less cramping towards the end of that rolling session, and you're going to feel a little bit better.
Yeah, but the cramping is always good. I mean, how many times have I been caught? About ready to get tapped, and I start cramping, and it saves me. So I like that part.
Yeah, I get, but you can always fake it.
Didn't tap once tonight, but I caught a cramp about 3 different times. So.
Yeah. And when you get better at it, I've been doing this for a long time. I can cramp whenever I want to. So, right as I'm about ready to get tapped out, you always cramp about 2 seconds before. And 2 seconds is the prime time because it's not too far into it that, the guy looks like you just gave up. You got to do it before he gets that arm straightened out. So, I'm pretty good at it, and it's got me out of a lot of submissions.
My favorite and sort of go-to pre-training snack is I've got one of those little Magic Bullet or whatever, the individual cup blender things, and I put about 8 ounces, 10 ounces of skim milk in there. I put a half a banana. I put a big tablespoon of peanut butter, and I put a scoop of protein powder, and I blend that thing up. If I do that, I feel like I've got plenty of energy. I don't catch cramps, and it's really simple. So that's kind of my go-to for the 30 minutes or so, hour or so before class. I'll mix one of those up, and they're perfect.
Joe, you said you do that and you don't get any cramps, but what do you do right before you're about to get tapped then?
I pause the action to offer my training partners some advice on how they can.
Awesome.
Do it better.
I like that. Good advice.
Joe, you said I have a Magic Bullet and I put about 8 to 10. And then, there was a little bit of a thing where my brain said, he's going to say raw eggs.
No, I don't do the Rocky Balboa thing.
Man. But that's good. You have a routine. And so all this stuff, so the food, the warm-ups, we're going to have stuff about, remembering information, all this stuff, you're going to find what works for you best. And so Joe has found this that works for him. And I'm glad he has that. And so all of our bodies are a little bit different. And of course, your body can also change over time. But you have to just kind of tinker with it a little bit and figure out what works best for you. I'll often be eating a protein bar on the way to train, or I'll grab a banana or a handful of fruit and throw it in a cup and munch on that, like a bunch of grapes or something like that, which I don't think are much to grapes, but whatever. I'm usually munching on something on the way to the class because it takes me 30 minutes to get there anyway.
Do you still do the salty nuts? I know you're really big into a handful of nuts.
Yeah, that's a breakfast, Gary, if I have breakfast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean if you have breakfast?
Some days I'm not eating breakfast.
Why?
I just don't. That's a good question. Some days I'll coast through breakfast and not eat until lunch or even a late lunch. Once I start eating, it's kind of like the dam breaks, and if I eat breakfast, I'm also going to eat a mid-morning snack. It seems like, and if I just skip breakfast, I'm just not eating anything until lunch, and I think that cuts out quite a few calories, for the day or even for the week.
Yeah, but why are you trying to cut out calories?
Well, I don't know, Gary. I'm trying to look trim.
Does your job make it difficult to stay on point with routine, Byron, and your meals?
It can. So my job, because I don't know when I get there at 6:30 in the morning if I'm going to have time to do anything in particular. We might be busy for 5 hours straight or even all day, or we might not be busy at all that day. You don't know when you get there what's going to happen. And so I don't, I obviously have to show up hydrated, and I usually will eat something before I go to work because I don't know what my day is going to bring me, and I don't want to end up in a really hardworking day and not be, nutritionally prepared for that.
Yeah, you do a 24-hour shift and then have 48 out, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's different for sure.
So he also talks about eating during training and what to do, and he really, this is a pretty standard as far as long distance running or anything that kind of an endurance athlete. If you're training less than an hour, you're good. As long as you did your pre-meal or your pre-workout meal or that snack, you'll be fine. Anything over 90 minutes, you really need to be getting some carbohydrates and a little bit of protein to help you get to be effective. No doubt you could probably do the workout, but you want to be performing well. during your workout. So, getting the energy up after that time, especially after 90 minutes, which is a long time, you need to be eating something. And you'll see if you watch people who teach seminars, if it's an hour plus, 2 or 3 hour seminar, they're going to be over there eating something, and they know they know they need that the nutrient intake mid session in order to do well. Even if they're just mostly just teaching, it's physically taxing. And of course, water is a big one. Gary mentioned that. So water throughout the day is really important, and you also need to be replacing those fluids as you go. And you can't. I almost get a drink. If we're rolling 5-minute rolls, I bet I get a drink after every other roll. And I don't necessarily feel thirsty or feel like I need it. But what doesn't work for me is to roll 7 rolls straight and then get a drink. Like I can't catch back up. I need to be sipping the water throughout the roll. If you watch, fighters in their corner, they're giving them a little bit of water every time. They don't wait till around 4 or 5 and they just douse them with 2 liters of water to drink. That's not what they're doing. Your body needs to be absorbing that over time. And then the post-workout thing. So it's beneficial but not required to put some protein in your body after you work out, and probably the sooner the better to help your muscles recover. So, guys, do you tend to eat a bunch of protein after a good workout?
No.
I don't as well now as I was a year or so ago. I was on a better routine where I would take one of those shaker bottles with me with protein powder in it. And I got a 20-ounce bottle of half Gatorade and half water that I sip on in class. And I usually drink about a third of that through class sipping on it. And then I would dump the rest of that into my shaker bottle with the protein powder and finish that after class. I need to get back to that because I think that's a good routine. It's getting that protein in immediately, getting a little more fluid in as well. So that to me is a good option.
For me, so when people ask me about jiu-jitsu and being, getting older as I go, because I think that we're all doing that, I think so, except for Benjamin Button. I always describe, I roll better, but I just take longer to recover. And maybe if I just focused more on my post-training nutrition, more protein and make sure I rehydrate up to and for hydration, it helps. Weigh yourself before, see what your weight is, and then you come back and you're 3 pounds light, you have to rehydrate. Like that's water you lost. And so get your body back up.
That's almost a half a gallon.
Yeah. So you probably should have been hydrating better during, but you've got to get your body will function better if it's hydrated. But I should probably, for myself, look at more protein after I work out because I do take longer to recover from a good workout. I'll be sore in the morning, and that whole time I'm sleeping, my body should be healing and recovering, and if it doesn't have the nutrients it needs to do that, it's probably an area I could improve. And so maybe it's not just my age, being 41. A good part of it might be I'm not giving my body the nutrients it needs to recover.
Oh, Byron, at 41, you're in prime. You wait till you start hitting your 50s, you're going to be in really bad shape.
Yeah. I look up to you guys. You guys are inspirational.
Well, Gary is, given his advanced age. I'm not nearly as old as him. So.
Well, it's funny, I'm the oldest of the group, and I eat when I eat. I drink when I drink. You guys got routines down. I just freaking show up. Like, hearing you guys, I do none of your stuff. Kind of crazy.
Well, so if you tried it for a couple of weeks, Gary, I think it would be. Think you would find anything different?
It might help a little, but I don't think I would like it. And the reason I say that is you guys know me. I don't plan anything. I just do it. And just like jiu-jitsu, if I don't look at jiu-jitsu as a learning experience, I don't look at jiu-jitsu, to try to get belts. I look at jiu-jitsu to have fun. I look at jiu-jitsu, I treat it just like I'm going to play a pickup game of basketball, something that I love to do, and the learning will come with it. But I'm just not a big planner, and I think I wouldn't like it as much if I did stuff. I think it's smart, but for me, it's not me.
Yeah, I think if you wanted to get serious about anything, but about jiu-jitsu, and you hired a professional coach, they would probably bring in nutrition almost immediately. And I think you do pretty healthy things, and as far as food and that sort of stuff. But if you were to reevaluate that might be a super simple thing to make a quick gain.
That's my downfall. I mean, I probably work out, weekends minimum 4 hours a day, at least 2 hours a day during the week. But the downfall is my nutrition. And I mean, I eat a lot. I probably eat 4,000 calories a day. And I know when I eat less, I start losing weight, which I don't want to do. So, that's an area that would probably make my biggest improvement if I could ever, if I ever got serious about it.
Yeah, but it wouldn't take. I mean, it's not like it takes a lot of planning. Joe, when you have your magic bullet mix, how much planning goes into that? I mean, I guess you need to have a few bananas on hand, but otherwise, you just make that and you're good to go. Like,
yeah, that's it. I keep the protein powder next to it, and wash everything up as soon as I'm done with it, so it's ready for the next time. And it's pretty simple.
Yeah, and if you do it right, you enjoy it.
Yeah,
I'm imagining you're not like making yourself drink this. It's horrible. You're not adding like a raw can of tuna fish or something. Oh, I need that. Like, I can barely eat it. It should be good.
Some protein. Yeah. Yep. A can of tuna fish, a couple of raw eggs. Put it in the magic bullet, and you're good to go.
That's what Superman does, Gary. So let's talk a little bit about power. And this article can be found on a website, trainheroic.com. And he spends a decent amount of time explaining what is power. And so power isn't just how much weight you can lift. It also has an element of speed. You need to be able to do it with some speed, because the equation, power, I think it's like force and velocity or something, like velocity squared. Man, I'm really dusting off some high school stuff here. But speed is definitely a factor in talking about power. And so the standard measurement of power is vertical jump. And because you're lifting that weight that you are, and you have to do that with some speed to get, you're not just lifting an inch, you're trying to use that speed to lift up. But that's not necessarily perfect measurement for sports. And the example he gives in the article is a swimmer. A lot of swimmers are super powerful, and their vertical jump is really laughable. They have long torsos, they have long arms, and their vertical jump doesn't reveal how much power they're having especially when they swim. So he gives some other measurements for power, but just to know that it's not just, hey, I could bench. Gary, I'm benching, well over 150. No, it's how fast you can make weight move, how fast you could explode. That's what power is. And he gives some things like a 10, 20, or 40-yard dash, a vertical jump, a standing jump, how far you could throw a medicine ball, and those are all general measurements of power. And so if you want to just kind of compare yourself to other athletes, that would be a thing you could do. You could look at your age category and look at what how far or how high your jump is, and say, hey, I have pretty good power, or I need to work on that a little bit so I can get up to just even a normal range of power. So he recommends resistance training. Obviously, is gonna help you with your increasing of power, and not every, like this is said in most of these articles, not every athlete reacts the same. Some are going to react really well to resistance training, and some people are going to get that really big boost and get a lot of gains to their power. Some athletes will kind of stiffen up and not do as well. But work on what you. I guess this article is pretty complicated. So using heavy weight training over time could stiffen the nervous system and decrease the motor learning, coordination, and it actually hurt you. So he talks about after 7 weeks of like power training, you change it up and do some other stuff. And I guess a simple power exercise would be jumping. And he says, get a couple of boxes. I guess those boxes you jump on. He didn't specify, not a shoe box, but like one of those things where you jump up 2 feet or a foot and do those. And those will help with your power. And you're like, oh, that's just legs. Well, legs are a big part of it. Legs and hips. Those are your biggest muscle groups. And increasing that speed and power in those are going to give you a lot to gain. Gary, kind of listening about this and what these power movements are, and I know you're on your bike a lot, and I don't know if that's a power thing versus an endurance thing. How much of your workouts you think are increasing your power or just increasing your strength, which is a little different than power?
I hope the majority of your workouts like that. When I was younger, I really did a lot of plyometrics. You're talking box jumps, power cleans, cleans, push presses, all that stuff. And, playing basketball really increased my vertical jump, was really powerful when you're talking, about the vertical there. Today, lifting heavier weights, power cleans I can't do anymore just because my wrists don't move. A lot of that stuff, a lot of those exercises I used to do are really kind of painful to me. But what I do is, on the positive part of each exercise, I explode through it, a slow negative, stop for a second and then explode. And, that's how I work on my power. My main training partner, Mike, he's a big bodybuilder with very, very powerful, very strong, very explosive. And, he's kind of helped me as I've got older that, you don't need to push the weight you used to push before, use better form, a slow negative, blowing through the positive part of it, very fast. And, I think that has helped me. But, I think the big thing is on weight training that has helped me is going back to the first part is it's kept me on the mats, kept me injury free. And the more I'm on the mats, the better I'm going to get at jiu-jitsu and the more fun I'm going to have.
Yeah, more fun is also a big part of it there, and it's nice to see you take that approach, Gary.
Yeah, but I mean, in all reality, that's another reason why I lift weights, why I ride my bike, because I can't train jiu-jitsu all the time. It's just too taxing on the body. But I've got like really bad ADHD, and I've played sports my whole life. I've got to do something, and so I'm always out playing basketball. I'm out riding my bike. Pickleball is my new thing. I probably play pickleball 4 or 5 days a week too. And it's just, it just keeps me active, keeps me burning calories and, having fun is what I like to do. And that I think that's one of the big reasons I weight train is it allows me to take a day off of jiu-jitsu but still stay strong and move my muscles through a full range of motion and stay limber.
And I know we're talking about power here, and then we're bringing up pickleball. I'm just curious, is pickleball 1-on-1 or is it 2 versus 2, or is there variations like tennis?
Well, I know most people play doubles.
Okay.
But, it's a thing that me and my son like to do together. So we just play us. But, everybody always comes over and it's like, hey, can we play doubles with you? It's like, no, we don't want to play with you. It's a weird sport.
Take your ball and go home.
Yeah, it's like, shit, we just want to, excuse my language. We just want to play by ourselves. I mean, we use it. My son uses it to get better at basketball. And the more space he has to cover, I mean, it just works out better that way for us. And so if you ever see us on the pickleball court and we politely decline doubles, it's not that we're being jerks. We're just trying to burn a little more calories and get a little bit better.
Cool. I've never played, but I've heard a lot about it.
Oh, it's awesome. I tell you, I love this sport so much. I could start a pickleball podcast.
Okay. Well, Gary, it's been real.
I actually entered a pickleball tournament too, but it got canceled.
Oh, I was going to say because you wanted to play by yourself and not with anybody else.
No, actually, I was going to have Mike. Me and Mike were going to do it.
Well,
he's never played before.
Well, neither have I. I'm glad you invited Mike.
Yeah.
All right. Back to power. So he's talking about different muscle twitches and fast twitch and slow twitch, and then kind of what I deal with sometimes is does it twitch? But he recommends he calls it the slow cooker process. Do as much as you can get away with, and like the minimal amount. No, do not do as much as you can get away with. Just do the minimal amount, and that will change your performance as well. So I don't go in there and lift and do these box jumps until I'm exhausted. Do them until I start to see a little bit of an effect, and even that will have a change on me. But if you're a slow twitch body type or athlete, you would possibly get overloaded with the low reps and high weight. Well, that might work well for the fast twitch athletes. So just kind of learn what you are, if you're fast twitch, slow twitch, or sometimes a twitch, and make an adjustment. So maybe you're a slow twitch athlete and you go in and you do these power lifts all the time where you're only doing 3 or 5 per set, and you might think, oh, maybe I should change it up and do more volume, and that might benefit my body type. Let's see, going on here, Gary talked about the plyometrics, and that's cool. That talking more about describe that, Gary. That's jumping and using those explosive movements.
Yeah, just using explosive movements, and I'll tell you, it made the biggest difference for me. Back when I was in high school, one summer, and back when I was in high school, you didn't have personal trainers. There was no such thing, and I remember buying books because there was no internet. Buying books at the Barnes & Noble because there were bookstores. And, it was all about plyometrics, how to increase your vertical jump. And, I went from, barely touching the rim to, getting well over, my hand well over the rim. And, just from, working plyometrics one summer. And, I was the biggest proponent of it all the way through my 30s. I would do power cleans twice a week, hang cleans twice a week, push presses, high pulls, box jumps. And, that made a big difference for me. I was very, very explosive. And that wasn't after eating.
He ends this article just saying that it would help if you logged your training and kept track of it. And then you could actually tell what was working for your body, and that's perfect. That's the same thing with the food. That's the same thing with hydrating and what warm-ups work for you. The more you learn about the equipment you're dealing with, as in your body, the better you could adapt what you're doing to that. And it's nice to think, oh yeah, I'm going to work out just like Gordon Ryan or whoever, Gary Hall. Like those are great things to strive for, but what works for you? If I work out like Gordon Ryan and I don't feel good when I'm on the mats and I'm getting tapped 100 times by everything, that workout might not be my type. Maybe try it for a couple weeks, maybe a month, and see if my body adapts to that and responds to that in a good way. And then if it doesn't, look at moving on and doing something else.
Yeah, and I like what you said there, Byron, and the author said is, everybody responds differently. And, you see people, who'll go buy a muscle and fitness magazine and try to do, Mr. Olympia as a workout. And, you're probably not ready for that. You're not eating like they're eating, kind of all the stuff you've been talking about, Byron. So we're all unique individuals. And just because Gordon Ryan works out that way, it may not work for us. It may, but, probably not. So find what works for you and stick with it.
Yeah. And you have to experiment with that stuff. You can't just plug in the right workout the first time, and that would be a lot of luck. And even that, you could tweak it and make it better.
Yeah.
Moving on, guys, and this is really getting into Joe's area of expertise, I feel, is, training smarter and improving skill and learning better and that sort of stuff. So our first one is an article you could find on active.com. It's this article is called 6 Sports Science Studies That Help You Improve Athletic Skills. And the article briefly at the beginning mentions a gentleman named Anders Ericsson, and he's a Swedish psychologist. And he just died in June of this year. he passed away. But he was really, we've all been affected by the work of Anders Ericsson. He was the person who really came up with deliberate practice. Not all practice is the same. We need to focus and practice on specific things. And you thought, the 10,000 hour stuff, and not all those hours are the same. And like, so he was, before it was a thing, Anders Ericsson was the guy that was promoting deliberate practice. And I think that's, he's an interesting person to learn about. Now, further in the article, it talks about the concept of athletes as children playing like pickup games in their backyard and messing around. And if you look at hockey players, did the same thing. And not just necessarily playing like focused games, but shooting the ball or hitting the puck or whatever, like just kind of playing around. And that has been shown to really help their learning long term. So they may not be learning then, but they're I guess they're learning how to learn. They're learning how to play in the sport itself. So just pick, a little pickup game or just shooting some hoops or whatever, or kind of horsing around or altering the game a little bit, playing 21 instead of actual basketball, or 2v2 or 3v3 or just different modes. Just helps you be a better learner of the sport you're in. So with jiu-jitsu, like we're talking about flow rolling or the 6 games for BJJ, all these things could kind of just tweak how your learning develops.
Byron, I like the last point that this guy makes. I don't know if you were going to touch on that or not, but talking about body language. And I've always known that it was important from a confidence standpoint, but here's something I did not know. It says the work of social psychologist Amy Cuddy and others shows that the way a person standing has an effect on their hormone levels. Standing in a strong positive way increases testosterone and cortisol levels and improves confidence, and they go on to talk more about that. But I had no idea really that the way that you stand and present yourself has an effect on your hormones and stuff. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that is kind of cool. Like your body is, and you could change the way your body is postured, is telling your brain, hey, I am confident. I need to release these chemicals because to match my body language. And maybe it's kind of a bit of a placebo effect or something like that, but the way that you act can actually change the way you feel. And just trying to have that confident look can actually make you more confident.
I think this applies to like when the coach is showing technique and stuff. I know,
okay.
Like my gym's really relaxed, and so it's not uncommon to see people just kind of half lounged and leaning over, sitting on the ground and leaning on their elbow or something. And I like going to a gym that's relaxed like that, but this article makes me kind of rethink that a little bit.
Yeah, I do like the attitude of that, but in a gym where it's the coach, this is a business, and if he or she was real strict and wanted everybody to be at attention and whatever, like you're gonna lose customers for that. But as you as a student, and I've seen students do it, and it really catches my eye as an instructor when I'm instructing. If a student is sitting up right and focused and watching and attentive towards what's going on, those students always do better. I would say almost always do better.
Absolutely.
Those students
Absolutely.
always do better. Those students, I'm looking at those people like, oh, this guy or gal, they're going to pick this up. They're going to do great. And if they do this week after week and year after year, they're still that attentive student. They're focused. They're showing, even if it's not a move for them. We've all been there. We're like, oh, they're showing this. I hate this. I can't do this. And this isn't, I'm not going to be inverting, or heel hooks aren't my game or whatever. Still give that deliberate focus, that and that attention it deserves and needs. And long term, it's going to pay off. And I think you're right with the body language. Is your body is listening to you, and I guess your brain's listening to your body. My body says pay attention. My brain will pay attention as well.
Well, let's take that a step further. So, you're the teacher and you're teaching something, and three people in the class shrug their shoulders and like, man, we learned this, 6 months ago. I don't need to learn it again. But then that one guy, he's just, you see a light in his eye, and he's really, really into what you're talking about. As a teacher, you're going to focus your presentation towards that person. So even on top of your body, saying, hey, I'm going to learn better, you now other people are being drawn to you who are now going to focus their attention on you and just, path of least resistance. Let's take the guy who really wants to learn, and I'm going to help that person out. And, it's just going to make it easier to learn. You're going to have people on your side who are, adamant about teaching you and want to give you their best, best moves and best teaching practices to make you better.
So also in this article, it talks about age being a factor, and not like how old you are, but when you were born. And I first heard about this, and it was having to do with Canadian hockey players, and I think it was in one of Malcolm Gladwell's books. I'm sure I'll be off a little on the numbers, but like half of the hockey players playing professional hockey were born in January and February. And it's like, that's weird. Why is that? Why are so many of them born in just 2 months? And research was done, and it was figured out that these kids is because of the way they do school. And these kids, when they're 7, most of their classmates are 6. And so when the coaches would be, teaching the team or whatever, they would lean towards a 7-year-old is a lot different than a 6-year-old. They would lean towards, hey, this is my best player. And they're all in the same grade, but actually this kid's a whole year older, which is a lot at that age. And so they would get special attention, and they would get more focus. And how that boiled down to, at the end of the road, when it came time to be a professional hockey player, the kids that got the focus and a little bit extra attention over their entire school career were born in January and February because they were a little bit older. That was like the cutoff age for each grade. And you look at the professional hockey players, most of them are born in January and February. It's really crazy. And it has nothing to do, if you were born in November, the odds of you being a pro hockey player aren't that good. Like nothing it's just because of the way that the coaching thing is set up. And I think about this with Joe, just explaining this body language thing. If you could, who's the coach going to give more attention to? Somebody who looks focused, or somebody who is kind of half laying there, has their phone on the mat, or I don't know what, they're eating a snack on the side, trying to be nutritional. But I think some of the effects of this can be thwarted by being super focused and trying hard to pay attention and being there, being present. And I think coaches will gravitate towards that as well, not just peak performers that happen to be older. That being said, if you have a kid in class and you're like, oh, do I bump them up to this next class or keep them in this one as far as what jiu-jitsu level, it might be advantageous, for them to be in a class that's harder for them with a bunch of people who are better. It also might be advantageous for them to be where the coach thinks that they're really good and they're going to give them extra effort. And I don't know, maybe it doesn't go well with jiu-jitsu because having the training partners is such a big effect on how your jiu-jitsu development is. And maybe it makes sense to make that jump earlier. That study hasn't been done yet. But for hockey, and this article talks about soccer, I believe. Was it soccer? Being similar.
Are you talking soccer or football?
Professional soccer player. I think that's going to be football. Football.
But Byron,
I remember. I was going to say, I remember back in, I think it was the late 80s or 90s, there was sort of a scandal in the Little League world because, for decades, people have immigrated from the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico and places like that, where they have really strong Little League programs, but there's even more training opportunities in America, so they would come to America to play, and they were lying about their ages. And at first I assumed that they were saying that they were older so that they could get on a more advanced team, but actually they were underreporting their age by as much as 2 or 3 years, and it didn't make any sense to me at the time, but now I can understand why. The kid's going to come, he's going to be much better than his teammates, and the coach is going to put all kinds of effort into making that kid as good as he can so that they can win games. So interesting.
Gary, did you have something else to add on that?
Well, I was going to talk. Well, first of all, I want to mention Danny Alamonte. That was the Little League World Series guy back in 2001 who lied about his age, but he was actually older. But that's probably why he was striking everybody out. But you were talking about before that when we were talking, you were talking about going to your age and everything, and I think that's one of the reasons why, like Joe and I, we are regular participants in the kids class, and I think we do pretty well in the kids class, and I think it's due to our birthday.
That's true.
Yeah.
The other thing in this article about improving your skill is learned optimism, and so it's been proven that people who are optimistic will perform better in sports. And it may come down to being optimistic about your training or any of that stuff, but it comes down to you're down by a significant margin, you're not likely to win. Being optimistic really helps you because, we might win. We have a pretty good chance if we get it together, we're going to win. Versus the person who's like, oh, this looks bad, this isn't going well. And that's our attitude. And I guess we just want to minimize the damage and not get submitted. Versus the optimist who was like, I could fit. I have to get a submission here, but I'm not going to hit you by points. But I could win with a submission anytime. Those attitudes, and this article really advocates is you can learn to be an optimist. You can learn to change that mindset, not just on the mats, but in life. And it's not a fixed thing. Like we talked earlier about if you're a slow twitch or a fast twitch muscle fiber person, I think you're kind of born with that. But optimism is plastic. You could change that. You could become a more optimistic person. And part of it is just recognizing when it happens. When good things happen, recognize that, and I think you'll become a more optimistic person. But if you find yourself, you're down by 4 points, which isn't a ton. There's a minute left. That's not a lot of time either. It's definitely a winnable match. Are you thinking, well, at least I didn't get submitted. Well, this is over. Am I going to get a match in the absolute division? Or are you thinking, I've got a minute left to get this done. I could do this. I've tapped out a lot of people in the last minute before, or that sort of thing. Just find, the article doesn't get deep into this, but it does mention the key thing is optimism, pessimism. Those are learned things, and those can be changed. So look to be more optimist, especially if you're wanting to compete and perform mentally at a good level. So another part of learning and improved skill, a different article here, and this is actually on a college website. It's called thebestcolleges.org, and they talk about learning stuff. And, obviously it's geared towards college learning, but one I thought was interesting was take on the role of a teacher. This is done in Jiu-Jitsu all the time, and I think it helps if we just recognize that it's happening and it's beneficial for both. So you've got 6 months on the mat. You're not a teacher. Somebody walks in new, and you get paired up with them, and you're doing a sweep you're familiar with as instructional time. You have an opportunity to help them do well. If they're doing something wrong or they have a question, 6 months is actually quite a bit of time on the mats to answer, hey, which do I grab here? Or why am I grabbing his arm? Oh, because he's going to post with it. And that isn't complicated stuff, but you'll quickly find yourself in the role to help teach something to somebody. And when you do that, it makes you learn from their perspective, and it makes you break down what you're doing. And it does help you learn the skill itself better. You may not have ever really realized why you have to control that forearm because they'll post with it. But when they don't, you're going to see that ramifications. Oh, I always grab the arm, but I never, I didn't really realize that coach explained that because I was just learning to hold that sleeve. But now that you ask it, it makes a lot of sense. So being a teacher, and it's easy to do in Jiu-Jitsu because we always will pair off in the groups of 2 or maybe 3, and people will have little conversations and little learning and teaching moments. It's also really good for the teacher to teach that. So take the time with your partners and show them, explain to them, and it's not a selfless act to do that, you're actually gaining a lot by teaching. I know Joe's a big advocate of this.
Yeah, I am. In fact, I have found recently that when people ask me for advice after a roll, I found that helps me. I'm sure as much as it helps them, because it makes me sort of deconstruct the roll that we just had and kind of think through it. And offering them advice, it forces me to think through it better. So I like that. And at our gym, we never pair off in twos anymore when we're repping the move. We always do it in threes. And I think Coach hasn't really explained in detail all of his reasonings for doing it, but I think that's part of it. You get to a little more visual learning while you're watching your training partners rep it, and there's also the opportunity to maybe you'll see something and be able to help them out a little bit. So I like that methodology.
Joe, I love it. I have never heard that before. I like what your coach is doing, pairing off in threes. And I think of sometimes where, I've been the odd man out and we had to do a group of three. But I also think I've probably learned more that way. I think that's a unique way. I've never really heard of anybody doing it, but I like it. I think that might be the way to go.
It's interesting. So yeah. Something to think about.
In this article about learning, it also talks about battling the curve of forgetting. And I guess the curve of forgetting was kind of discovered or explained in 1885, so some old science here. But to boil it down, you're going to forget. Your information you learn will kind of drop off as you go. And if you learn something today and then review it tomorrow, that has a way better effect than if you review it in a week. It obviously gives the example of studying for college tests. As far as reviewing the next day or that evening, the learned material, it stays in your head better than if you cram for the test the day before or the afternoon before or whatever. So it's really a idea of, are you taking some notes? Do you review those notes? It might be a concept of how is your class structured as far as weekly or monthly? Is this week, are you learning the same arm bars? So every day that you come in, you get to be reminded and you get to relearn the same material. Or is it arm bars today, takedowns tomorrow, and you do this 60 class curriculum that by the time you get back to the first class, that was 2 months ago. I think that would be a harder way for it to stick into your brain versus the review method. And if that's the way your class is, that's fine, but you may need to go home and review it the next day and even the day after that. Like, okay, 3 days ago we did this armbar, and this detail was really important for me because I was having trouble with it. So a lot of it's on you, but the instructor could design a class to help the students remember the techniques better. So, and I've experienced that with Gary. He showed me a technique, and sure enough, the next day, because usually when I see Gary, I'm able to bring my wife to the mats as well, and so she's able to see the same technique. And so we're trying to review it a day or two after. And man, if we don't, he's not showing me like the most simple things. He's showing me some kind of advanced stuff sometimes. And if I don't get that reviewed in a day or two, I find myself starting back to where Gary started from. Like, hey, Gary, show me that technique again. Oh, what part are you in trouble with? The technique. Like, I forgot it. So that review, it really has a big effect.
Well, Byron, for only $19.95 a month, you can join my online learning center, and you'll never have any issues with that. One simple payment of $19.99 each month, plus a sign-up fee of $599, and that's all it takes.
Can you like take off like 10% on that fee?
Why would I do that?
Okay. Well, I was almost there. You almost had me, but I'm not going to quite join. I like to save a little bit of money, Gary.
Yep, you're lost.
Okay. Gary, you could make a program online, and we would promote the heck out of that thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about self-confidence. And, I think with that, people think about competing and having confidence in competing well. But as Joe mentioned with the body language thing, just being more confident or being the right amount of confident will help you learn better as well. And and this is also a learned thing. Jiu-Jitsu, everyone says it'll crush your ego and all that stuff like that. And you might experience that as far as, you walk in there, you're a big tough guy like Gary or Joe, and you get beat up by somebody who hasn't hit puberty yet. Like, that happens all the time in jiu-jitsu. Some child will hop on your back and choke you, and like, it'll actually be scary. And it's like, man, I've been lifting weights for, I'm really strong, and this, like, that's ego crusher. You no longer can walk around thinking you can fight. But, after a short amount of time, I really hope that confidence is actually built on the mat and not taken away like that. And especially with kids, and, I guess everybody needs confidence. And so I think that's a good, way to end on this, improving your jiu-jitsu with science, is increasing your confidence will also help you learn better and get better as well. And one thing that really stood out to me in this article was the golden rule in reverse. So, let's say Joe does a tournament where Joe, I don't know, he burns the food or whatever that he's cooking. I don't know, whatever. So some sort of thing. The tournament doesn't go well. He burns the food. Anything. I'm going to basically not, hey, Joe, man, sorry that tournament didn't turn well. Or, man, the food, it tastes a little burnt, but whatever. But Joe is over there beating himself up over it. And he's like, man, I can't believe I got armbarred in 20 seconds, or I can't believe I forgot to set the timer on what was in the oven. And he's just beating himself up over that. The golden rule in reverse is, well, how are others going to treat me on this? You feel like you let your whole team down at your tournament. Well, look at them. They're not mad at you. They're all right with that. They wish you would have done better, but are they disappointed? No, they wish the best for you, and they're your fan. They're supporting you, but they're not like upset about it. So treat yourself like they're treating you. That opposite golden rule, or is my whole evening ruined because, Joe left food in the oven and it burned? No. Is Joe's whole evening ruined? Maybe, because he's being really hard on himself for forgetting to do that. Joe's never had that situation. I don't know why I picked that one to run with, but anyway, just being able to give yourself the forgiveness that others give you can be a really important thing.
I burn food constantly.
Do you really?
Yeah, I have this bad habit of putting stuff on the stove to warm it up, or cooking some beans or something, and then get busy doing something else, and also like, what's that smell?
Oh my!
Yeah. So,
do you cook on a high temperature or like a lower medium heat?
Well, usually on a lower medium heat. My wife beat me out of. She beat it out of me years ago. I used to turn the stove on high all the time, but I don't anymore. But I'll like when I'm at work, I'll cook up a big pot of lentils, and then I'll eat it for a couple of days. So I'll put it on the stove and put it on medium, but there's not a lot of water in there anymore. It's been cooked, and then I'll start working on my computer. I'm in the same room, but my back's to the stove. And I'll be like, crap.
beep, 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 beep. The smoke.
Yeah.
But it's just important to learn to, forgive yourself, and just that golden rule in reverse is a big one. And it's funny that you do burn food. I didn't realize that about you.
Yeah. So, hey, I'll real quick, because I know we're running out of time here, but I want to touch on the last one about learning styles. It says forget about learning styles. And I just wanted to say that I'm reading that book that Paul Kinsey has sent us a while ago, Master Jiu-Jitsu, Master Life. And he's talking in there about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And, I'm familiar with the term, but hadn't thought too much about it. And basically, a lot of times we'll say things like, and I see it with the learning styles. I'm a visual learner, people will say. And so consequently, they sort of write off the idea of learning by reading about something or by listening, because I have to see it in order to learn. And while it's true that we do have tendencies, that's not a fixed. That's not fixed. I mean, if you are not a very good visual learner, you can become better at it. And I just see a lot of people write that off. I see a lot of, like, I can't learn a technique unless I'm tactily involved. You know, it's being demonstrated on me, and then I'm doing it, and certainly that's a big part of it. But you can improve the other types of learning as well, and then that's going to make your learning easier, give you more opportunities. So if you're one that has thought, I'm not a good visual learner, or I'm not a good auditory learner, that doesn't have to be fixed and set in stone. Those are things that can be improved upon.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we are running a little bit short on time. We'll put links to all these scientific articles. This has been scientifically proven ways you could improve your jiu-jitsu. Does that sound better, Joe?
Yeah, I'll buy it.
We do have a Patreon page. You could support us there, and with information about what's going on there. I don't know if we've mentioned since the last episode, Joe was on the Old Rollers podcast. Joe, way to go, my man. I don't know if that was out last time or not. Check that out, my friend.
Fun.
It was fun. So, yeah, and if you want to get a hold of any of us for other podcast interviews or whatever, you know, the Facebook page is pretty simple to do that, or email me at BjjBrick@gmail.com, and I'll connect you with whoever you're wanting to get a hold of. And it's fun. As we do less, you know, we're not a weekly show anymore. It's fun to hop on another podcast and chat with them and let them direct where we go. So we're looking forward to doing more of that, guys. Anything else before we close this out, Joe or Gary?
You know, I'd like to thank Joe for being the great guy he is, and Byron, never mind.
Gary,
Gary, it's been fun to be on here with you.
I'm like that. I'm always trying to impress Gary and never get there. Anyway, stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Train hard, train smart, use scientifically proven methods, and get better, guys. We'll see you on the mats.
I'm just picturing Gary with his gym shorts and timer and stopwatch or whatever, and whistle.
Coach's shorts.
Coach's shorts.
Coach's shorts.
What's the difference? They're shorter.
You remember the old coach's shorts, right?
They're shorter.
Aren't they usually like gray or blue? And
depends what school you went to.
Yeah, the pockets.
Yeah. I'll send you a picture of old school coach's shorts.
I hope they're with you in them.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You can visit our website at BjjBrick.com for more good times. Swing by and like our Facebook page. Our email is BjjBrick@gmail.com.